been a minute since we went live, so I decided to leave everybody a little present for when they wake up in the morning. The Jazz ended up dropping one against the Charlotte Hornets. No Walker Kessler in this one, but they were without two of arguably their three best players, being LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. But they ended up being able to lock in and get the win out of this one. A bit unfortunate if you were hoping for a victory, but it was relatively anticipated. So we're just going to jump through these stats real quick. Oh, Tyson, you're here. I didn't think anybody would be here. I'm not going to lie. Logic, you're here too. Oh, yeah, I wasn't. It's been funny, put mildly. You could make the argument that with Walker Kessler we don't drop this one, but yeah, it looks like Walker Kessler was all you needed to make sure we dropped this one. Yeah, put mildly. Taylor Hendricks finally got the start. Bryce didn't really get that many minutes though in this one. Taylor Hendricks getting his minutes was definitely nice though. Oh, last few games, yeah. Taylor had finally got that start, and he proved to be more. He's done more in this one start than Kyle Filipowski in the past ones that he had. So it's interesting, but still, I guess a lot more goes into it because it's not going to be a significant enough sample size. But that 14-7 was pretty nice in those 25 minutes of action. Lowry 29-7-3 was a really good game for him. Just establishing what we already knew about him, which is he scores. We can't only have Lowry on offense showing up. Our perimeter D was bad the last two games. Yeah, we got shot. We got shot, shot out of the game almost 2 games ago, which was really interesting to see us just fight back into that one. Nurkic starting, 3-9-2, which offensively that was kind of uncharacteristic just to have 3 points out of him. But I got to look at the shot chart as well. Keontae 25-2-7. He's doing some things that are actually pretty nice to see. I need to look at his overall 5-game sample size or 6-game sample size now to know exactly what's going on. But yeah, Larry was the only person there, just about. Svi had 3-2-2. He only took 4 shot attempts in this one, so that was kind of nasty. But he was out there. Ace closing in on 20 minutes. Didn't hit a 3 in this one, but he had 6 points and an assist. Cody Williams 9 minutes of action. I just told you what kind of game it was. Still in those 9 minutes, a whopping goose egg right there. If we're going to lose anyways, just let Ace shoot 20 shots. I'm wondering why he's not garnering more minutes, because I don't think there's any world where in 19 minutes he puts up 6 and Svi has 3-2-2 in 30. And then in the next game, you don't up his minutes or at least split them dead even. If they split them dead even, like how we were seeing with Taylor Hendricks and Kyle Filipowski in the beginning, that makes sense. Speaking of which, Kyle Filipowski only getting 16 minutes of action was curious. 4-1-2 was also curious. But being able to see Bryce Sensabaugh, get 7 and 1. I think he only had 1 shot attempt though. I think he was 1 for 1 from the field and then 5 of 6 from the free throw line, if memory serves me right. Walter Clayton Jr. still struggling with efficiency, but that 4-2-2 was still something, in only 19 minutes of action. Slow-mo played in this one. K-Love played in this one. So, you definitely know how it was. Cone Kneppel. 24-6-5. I respect it. And then Miles Bridges giving us basically a 30-piece, 29-4-6. That led Ryan Kalkbrenner be mediocre, but it didn't matter. And then Colin Sexton with his 10-4-12. He had 6 turnovers in this one, which was kind of funny. But 10-4-6 was nice to see. Sion James 15-5-3 was cool. I thought Salon was going to end up having a hotter start to the season. So the fact that he's just, barely scraping minutes is interesting. Diabate should have, gotten the start clearly, 17-12. I think that just speaks for itself. And the fact that we didn't have Walker Kessler definitely didn't help our case at all. Liam McNeely, Pat Connaughton. Dang, I forgot Pat Connaughton's on the Hornets. KJ Simpson, modest stat line. This is a pretty good stat line for a guy with only 17 minutes of action. And then Mason Plumlee barely touching the court. Trey Mann 13-4. Yeah. Yeah. He said, let me see. Likely trying to find who he's best with and slowly transition him into his future role. Yeah. Saying Ace's middies were bad. The other game, Ace was 3 of 5. The coach didn't play him in the fourth quarter. Just saw shot selection, yeah. Tanking again and no defense, for sure. Say, let him coach, let him shoot. It must happen. I think we're going to probably see more of a, who was it that got it first? I want to say it was Taylor Hendricks, who about halfway through his rookie season finally ended up, he got pulled from the G League up to the full like official roster, and he played out the rest of the season and got a sizable share of minutes. I think it was Taylor. I don't think it was Bryce. I think it was Taylor their rookie year. So if I could see that also happening with Ace Bailey, even though he's playing 20 minutes, which isn't anything to scoff at. I mean, 3 of 8, getting 8 shot attempts. He didn't hit a 3 yet, which is a little disheartening, but not bad. An assist, a steal, only 1 turnover. That box score plus minus isn't really good, but overall, this is one of the better, I guess, offensive performances that he's had. Kevin Love coming in is interesting in 15 minutes of action. No fear in his heart. Bryce 1 of 1 in his 8.5 minutes of action. Yeah, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. Walter Clayton Jr. 1 of 4. Flip 2 of 5. Kyle Anderson 2 of 4. Cody Williams didn't even attempt a shot in his 9 minutes on the floor. Had 2 boards, a block, 1 turnover. Somehow a positive box score plus minus though. Interesting. Yeah, Taylor Hendricks at 5 of 8 looked really nice. 2 of 3 from 3, hit both of his free throws, 4 offensive to 3 defensive, and no turnovers. Yeah, it's not gonna, we lost, so it doesn't really amount to much. But as far as like playing in the game, and I need to look at him and flip stats comparatively. That's a really good game. That's a very solid game for him. If he can consistently give us 14 and 7, that would be lovely, honestly. Lowry taking 28 shot attempts, 3 of 10 from 3. Hit his 2 free throws, 7 boards, 3 assists, no turnovers, despite 28 shot attempts is pretty nifty. His box score plus minus was god awful, but he was efficient for all intensive purposes. You then had, Nurkic was 1 of 6 and 0 of 3. That's why he only had 3 points. 9 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals. Yeah, interesting. Only 22 minutes of action too, so that explains this. Yeah, Svi with his 1 of 4. Keontae 8 of 18, a lot better. Still not hitting from 3-point range. We need to look at that. But 8 of 18, not bad. 8 of 9 from the free throw line, still hitting from there, so there's still hope. 2 boards, 7 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 4 turnovers, which is high considering he only had 7 assists. But we're going to shoot him some bail because he did have a pretty efficient 25 points. Yeah, we talked about the bench already. Let me see what theirs look like. 9 of 17, 7 of 18. I think 7 of 18 is kind of rough for him. 1 of 3, 6 of it. Sion James was frying us. Colin, 36% from the field. Dang, Musa Diabate, 7 of 9. Trey Mann, 36%. So I guess Sion James, Musa Diabate, and Colin Kneppel kind of carried their efficiency for the most part. Understandably so. Dang. Yeah. We both shot the same number of shot attempts. They made 7 more shots than us, though. So we were bad. And then 7 of 32 from 3 is not going to win you any games. That's 22% to their 41. Yeah. They shot literally 20% higher from 3. And hit, 11 more? 11 more on just 9 more attempts. Can't do that. They also were 100% from the free throw line, We weren't bad. 24-29 isn't bad, but against 22 of 22, well, Dang, Diabate hit all three of his. I didn't even peep that. Miles Bridges 12 of 12 is crazy work. Holy sh! Golly. Did we ever? Yeah, we got out rebounded. That's what not having Walker Kessler will do to you. 28, 28 defensive rebounds to their 37, 9 to our 10. We had more offensive rebounds by one, but killed us on the defensive glass. And ultimately that made a pretty substantial difference. Assist wise, they're 31 to our 27, so pretty even. It looked like Colin Sexton and Keontae George were going dime for dime and low key turnover for turnover. Dang, their starters only had 7 turnovers combined, and 6 of them were Collins. 14 turnovers total for them, 10 for 10? Wow. This is a low turnover game. Golly. 6 blocks to R3, 7 steals to their 6. Yeah, they just outshot us badly. 3 of 10, 4 of 9, 3 of 5, 1 of 4, 1 of 3, 3 of 7, 1 of 1, 2 of 4. Yeah, even the bench washed. Because it's what, 4 of 10, 5 of 11, 7 of 15. Yeah, 7 of 15. So they were just under 50% on the bench alone. If you look at starters separately from the bench, they were just equally on par. 4 of 9, 7 of 19, 11 of 28. That's lower. Yeah, that 3 of 10 was what did it. Because 1 of 4 isn't going to drop your percentages like that because you had 3 of 5, 4 of 9. Yeah. It was hideous. On Coach Hardy, I like Coach Hardy. It sucks because he inherited a roster where when he was competent and he coached the roster the way that it was supposed to be coached, we were supposed to lose, right? So he accidentally created a winning formula with a roster that was supposed to lose games. And no matter how much no matter who we throw out there on the floor, the goal at the end of the day is to make sure we lose more than we win by a landslide. So as a head coach, it's hard to lose games and make it look like you know what you're doing while losing games. Because if you lose a close game, they're going to say, oh man, that last play was a terribly drawn up last play. We've had a couple of those. You're going to say, oh man, why is so-and-so in the game in the last 2 minutes of the game? He has no business being on the floor. And then, that's a coaching decision. And then as a head coach, you have to explain, we just felt like in practice, you basically have to say some BS. Like basically in practice, we really thought that he showcased what he needed to do. We want our guys to really fight out there on the court, but you have to earn those minutes in practice. And I felt like he did. And that's why he was out there in crunch time. Usually his numbers don't necessarily say that he will do terrifically well, but at some point we have to be able to rely on him. And that's why I put him out on the floor. They say something like that, but behind closed doors, we know it's because we want to lose the game, right? Like last season, Cody Williams was that guy. In this one, right? You could make the argument that in the fourth quarter, we still weren't too far back, right? But 9 minutes from Cody Williams, we'll make sure you don't get back into it, right? 11 minutes from slow-mo, we'll make sure you don't get back in it, right? Like, even you want to say Kevin Love, right? If you play substantial minutes from these guys, you have no Walker Kessler, which means you don't have your real big, right? You had Yusuf Nurkic starting, 0 blocks. He did have 2 steals, but 0 blocks, right? No offensive rebounds. He did have 9 defensive rebounds, though, right? But no offensive rebounds. And for a guy that went 1 of 6 and 0 of 3 from 3, that goose egg from the offensive rebounding department puts a lot more pressure on Lauri Markkanen and Taylor Hendricks to get the job done. Then you have, Kevin Love came in, he got 2 boards. Cody Williams had 1 offensive rebound, but there's nobody cleaning up the offensive glass. So if you're missing a lot of shots, it happens, right? But the lack of ability to retain those possessions when you do miss those shots is a lot more telling, and it can really widen up the hole like it did in this one. But yeah, I'm fond of Coach Hardy. I recognize that he can coach. It's hard for me to discern like where he really ranks in the coach hierarchy because we're not supposed to be a good team right now. If the thing was, hey, we don't want to tank, we want to win as many games as we can this year. Let's see what we can get, right? We you can make the argument we're slightly above a 500 team, maybe 44 and 38, right? Depending on how things shake out, injuries, all that sort of stuff, right? But you have certain games where some people are supposed to sit out. You have some games where there's going to be an injury risk, so you sit that person out. You have other games where they're like, okay, this is a game where we could feasibly win. Let's go out there and let's just roll the dice and see how it plays, right? But we still have to experiment to justify what we've done the entire season because we can't sit there and run Markkinen, Hendricks, Kessler, George, and Bryce, right? In the clutch time for one game, and we just wax whoever we play. And the next time in the clutch, you see Lowry, Flip, a mixture of Walker and Nurkic, and then either Svi or Cody Williams, and then Keontae George or Isaiah Collier, right? Because there's too much discontinuity there. And if the league wants to sit there and find somebody, if they want a couple extra dollars in the pocket, they're gonna say, hey, knock, investigation. Why did you guys do that? Everybody was healthy. Why did you roll out that lineup? Because it would be too obvious for it. But I think that ultimately he is a good coach. I think that the situation has not been necessarily ideal. And also the composition of our team is really, really interesting because when I think about the Charlotte Hornets, I think of a similar roster to this, right? It's kind of convenient that we actually played them. Most of these guys are babies in the league. Sion James, baby. Kalkbrenner, literally a rookie. Miles Bridges, right? If that's your veteran, right? Miles Bridges is your veteran. You're not built to win a title, right? You're not built to make a deep playoff run, right? Colin Kneppel, literally a rookie, right? Colin Sexton, valid veteran, but not the veteran, right? When you don't think Colin Sexton, you don't think deep playoff run, right? Unfortunately, right? KJ Simpson, Musa Diabate, Trey Mann, Liam McNeely, Salon, Connaughton, right? Mason Plumlee. None of these guys, you think deep playoff run when you look at this team. You think rebuilding roster. So even when you look at the Jazz, right? Young guy, Larry Markkinen, you think good player, right? Individually, but you don't think playoff run. You don't think not deep playoff run. You don't think playoff run. And I think he played in the play-in with the Bulls that one year, but I don't think he's ever even sniffed an actual playoff series, right? And that's our guy, right? Then you have Yusuf Nurkic, who nobody really, I'm not going to say nobody respects because people respect him, but they don't look at him the same way that you would look at other veteran centers in the league, right? People don't look at Nurk like they look at who's somebody that's just okay. Or a little bit better than okay. What's his name? Clippers. I have his face in my brain and I can't see it. I'm not gonna remember it right now. But for example, the Clippers center, when you usually think of a prototypical big that you need to make a playoff run, you think of that guy, right? And then beyond that, you might think of somebody that can stretch the floor a little bit better. You don't necessarily think Yusuf Nurkic, right? Though he has some tools, you don't think him as that guy, right? As that main guy to hold down your front court ever. Svi, similar, you don't. Keontae George is clearly making improvements, but it's not enough to push the needle for us, right? K Love, backstretch of his career, right? Could you argue that he is a vet that you want on your team when you're running for a championship? For sure. But when you look at the rest of the roster around him, it doesn't scream playoffs. It doesn't even whisper playoffs, arguably, right? But I think if given the opportunity to actually win games, if let's say our pick doesn't convey, even if we don't end up being top 7, right? We still keep our pick. We don't owe it to the Thunder. I'm not going to say that we definitely still tank. I think that there is a decent chance where the first 20 games of the season, the front office says, hey, Will, go play, right? At around the 15, 20 game mark, we're going to reevaluate. We're going to decide based on the rest of the league, how everybody else is playing in the league. Do we want to tank out this year and just, get a top pick? Or do we want to really hoop, really put on a show for our fans, really showcase our young guys and really just put on a show, right? And if we end up being slight, if we make the play-in, cool. If we just miss the play-in, also cool, right? I could see that happening. But because of the situation that we're in, it's really a rough spot for Will Hardy to be in specifically. The front office, I just don't like being lied to, right? I don't like being lied to. That's why I had a big issue with the Colin Sexton trade, because you say that you're focusing on the young guys, you say you're developing talent, but you trade away the most efficient shooting guard that you had on your roster. You could make the argument that you needed to. And with Bryce Sensabaugh, needing minutes because he's a good player now, you could say, hey, we did it because we want to see Bryce Sensabaugh play. He's not playing. He's not getting his opportunity. 8.5 minutes. We trade away Colin Sexton so I can see 8.5 minutes of of Bryce Sensabaugh. Only 19 minutes of Ace Bailey. No. And a lot of the things we'll see from like what gets put on the floor, I fervently believe is not a Will Hardy decision. It's we told Will Hardy he's going to have to do some of these things. He's going to have to make some of these compromises. But coach gets it. He gets it. He understands. He's getting paid millions of dollars. I think that's the biggest issue that we'll run into with him for the most part. Let me see. Give Ace time because Ace had issues early socially before the draft because of his age. yeah, that man Omar Cooper. And then just before the season, the sickness. Yeah, for sure. We want to lose that team's focus on Lowry, who Ace might be learning. True. Other game he made 3 shots in a row. Coach took him out. I say draw plays for Ace mid-range 15 times a game. Always throw. We'll probably see more of Ace being central after All-Star break. Like maybe a little bit before, but really after. I think I'd like to think he's healthy now. After like watching him play in this game, he didn't look like he was still super sick, right? Let's make the argument, he's 90%, right? The only reason you don't start him and play him more minutes than Svi is because you're trying to ease him into the NBA, into NBA play. You're not trying to burn him out too quickly. You're not trying to get him exposed for his lack of weight to his frame, which is a valid point to a certain extent. Maybe his conditioning isn't quite where it needs to be. Maybe the sickness did end up doing a little bit of a number on that. But even beyond that, you could make the argument that you don't want him to hit a sophomore slump. And in order to make sure that happens, you could potentially make the argument that you really start, busting open the bag of chips that is Ace Bailey at the end of the season when nobody has real tape on him. If we have a lot of times where he's not really heavily in the action, right? He's not the main ball handler. He's not the primary guy in a pick and roll. He's not even running a pick and roll setup with Keontae George, right? He's not screening for Keontae George. None of that, right? He's more fitting into that Taylor Hendricks kind of window, right? We know, I know, all of us know that's not going to be his final role. That's not going to be his final. That's not the peak of his powers. But the league doesn't know what on-ball Ace Bailey looks like. So the less tape you give them early on in his career to deal with it, the better of an opportunity you have to watch him build a great deal of confidence playing guys that, yes, may be good defenders, but they're not good Ace Bailey defenders, right? Because it's kind of like, think about it like playing basketball against like your cousins, your brothers, family members, people that you see every day, right? You know how to guard them better than anybody else because you've played them 20,000 times, right? You know every move. Whenever they shimmy a certain way, you know exactly what they're doing with the ball every time because you know them, right? You may be a terrible defender, but you know them, which makes you a great defender for that specific assignment. There's great defenders across the league, but there's different matchups that defenders are better at. And when you don't have a lot of tape to go off of, most of the tape says, hey, we got to watch out for this guy, but most of the time he just does backdoor cuts, shoots some threes. Then that's what you're going to go into the game expecting. So if all of a sudden we see a stretch of 10 games towards the end of the season where he's really putting the rock in his hands, really putting belt to ass, the league's like, hold on, we get the report just changed, right? He doesn't just shoot threes off the catch. He doesn't just backdoor cut. He dribbles now. But it's too late in the season for them to properly, adjust for it And so that allows him to come into next season when, in theory, right, we're not tanking. We want to try and see what we actually are as a roster. And he's not hitting a sophomore slump, right? Because everybody doesn't yet know how to guard him. They may have some inklings of thoughts, but all 30 teams in the league don't know how to guard him just yet. They just have assumptions for things that they can try and throw at him. But you still have to remember, Larry Markkanen's still out here, right? And if Keontae George, gets his three ball underway, Keontae George can still punish you. And then you have Ace Bailey. And then you have Taylor Hendricks, who's not going to slouch. Then you have Bryce Sensabaugh coming off the bench, right? So it's a culmination of a lot of moving pieces. But I think that the best stance or the best reasoning for it at this stage in the season will be because we don't want him to hit a wall his sophomore year. Because I think arguably for a guy like Ace Bailey, if he comes into his sophomore year thinking he had a full off season to just prep, get everything underway, get really confident, and he thinks that he's going to be in his bag starting the season out. But the entire rookie year, the entire league watched him be on ball, he's going to have a harder time because they're going to say, hey, you're pretty tough. But we know how to guard tough people, right? We know how to deal with guys like you. We've seen your tendencies. You may have worked on your game. You may be more efficient, but you still have the same tendencies. And we're going to exploit every single one of them until your coach either takes you off the floor or the fans boo you off the floor. One of the two, right? Welcome to the league, buddy. That's an argument that could be had. Because there's been a lot of players across NBA history who had great rookie seasons, right? Sometimes even great second-year seasons. But for some inexplicable reason, as they start hitting that year 3, year 4, year 5, all of a sudden they don't matter anymore. They can't get buckets like they used to. They're not as capable of being, really confident players anymore. And once that confidence gets taken away from a player, it's over, especially when you're a young guy. When you're a vet in the league, there's ebbs and flows. You're going to have a 10-game stretch where you're super hot from 3. Then you're going to have a 5-game stretch where you shoot dog water. The rookies aren't used to that, right? Especially guys like Ace Bailey. They're used to being that guy. They're used to, I had one bad game. They're not used to having 10, 15 games where everybody's saying in interviews, hey, Ace, so how do you get out of this slump? You're just missing a lot of shots that you usually, I believe, would probably make, right? So what do you think has to happen for coach to put you into winning positions? And that's also how you catch some guys misspeaking, because sometimes they don't want to take that blame. And we're going to see, I think, more towards the end of this season and more so into his sophomore year, we're going to see the not necessarily leader in Ace Bailey, but how well spoken he can be, because he's going to run into some issues. But we also want to stagger him a bit so that he doesn't run into too many, if that makes sense. That, and then I think more minutes between when he actually plays. I think more minutes between him and Walter Clayton Jr. would do some pretty solid numbers. Just because of the style of the way they both play basketball. It's a little bit different. Keontae's a little bit more of a slasher. As you even saw here, he's really getting those 3-point shot attempts. Remember, I said I don't really want him taking more than 5 because he used to take 7. And if you go 1 of 7, 2 of 7, that's terrible, right? 1 of 5 is kind of bearable, right? Because you realize, hey, it's just not falling. I'm still getting to the rim though, right? 9 free throw attempts, 18 overall shots. That means 13 were from inside the arc, and most of them were going downhill at the rim. Ace Bailey likes middies, right? If you have a guy that loves middies and another guy that loves driving, they're probably not gonna have the best time on the court together, though they can still be efficient. But neither of them, just so far, has really been hitting their threes like that. Walter Clayton Jr., though he hasn't really hit a lot of threes, is supposed to be a shooter. So in theory, if you force a shooter that will also likely take floaters onto the floor with a guy who's trying to find his 3 ball, but also definitely has his midi game put together, in theory, I think that's a really good tandem to have. Sorry, I really dragged on that a little bit. See, a 6% season practices for a bit. Pelicans easing fears into the NBA or Queen, more boils. So with Queen for the Pelicans, I'm gonna say the Pelicans are just a bad team, right? I think they're 0-6. Yeah, they lost to the Thunder, so they should be 0-6 right now. Patrick Queen is a good player, right? Or he's a good rookie, but he's not on a roster that will ever be built to win. None of we can look at it right now, actually, because I feel strongly about it. Like you look at a guy like Dylan Harper, right? Dylan Harper is such a good player, and he has such a great roster there in San Antonio alongside him that even in games he struggles, you won't know he struggled because you had so many other moving cogs to deal with. With the Jazz, you don't really have necessarily that many pieces that you have to worry about. So if Ace Bailey goes out there and has a bad game, everybody knew he had a bad game because he was one of those main three focal points. You look at these guys, you have Zion Williamson, right? Oh, he didn't shoot. He's really cut down on his 3 point. Golly, 6 of 12. Right? But you have Masai is never going to be, no disrespect to him, right? He's in the NBA for a reason. But you will never sit there and have a competent roster with him as your lead big, right? Let me see who, because I know he didn't play today. Right? You have DeJounte Murray. These two are really non-factors. But we're sitting here. There was no Nikola Topic, no Chet Holmgren, no Jay Will, no Lou Dort, right? Aaron Wiggins, Jalen Williams, you know, light-skinned Duke Dennis, Isaiah Hartenstein, Cason Wallace, Shea. Gun to your head, name anybody that actually matters back here besides Alex Caruso. Who the heck is Chris Youngblood? You can work by Chris. Nah, that's disrespectful. Let me stop. Right? But the point is, there's not a lot of great guys that played this night, but they lost by 31. And that's because of the composition of their team. Now, Derek Queen, he didn't play a lot in this one, but usually he gets a sizable amount of minutes. Now, the issue that they're gonna run into more than anything is he's gonna hit a wall. Before his rookie year's out, he's gonna hit a wall. And I don't know if maybe he played it only 7 minutes in this one because they found it already, but there's glaring issues. Like Ace Bailey at his peak, right? Like we played Ace Bailey 32 minutes, we played Derek Queen 32 minutes. Ace is definitely, despite the lack of, sheer, I guess, girth and strength, there's very few issues with his game overall. Derek Queen has some very glaring issues, and his conditioning is definitely going to be one of them. So if they want to run him the entire time, there's no great lineup you have because none of your guys, right? They had a good shooting night tonight. That's the thing that really sucks, right? Trey Murphy can shoot. Herb Jones has his nights. Jeremiah Fears really stepped up, right? Jeremiah Fears is one of those guys that will succeed in this sort of situation individually, right? They're not going to win games, but he will be successful. Derek Queen will really have that opportunity. But you're going to reach a point where one of these guys, I think after the season, either Trey Murphy or Herb Jones runs into a situation where I don't know how their contract situation is set up right now, but one of them either isn't here anymore or doesn't want to be here anymore. Because you also got to remember, they still have Jordan Poole off the bench and I forgot Jose Alvarado. But Jordan Poole off the bench, I'm sure Jordan, despite playing 24 minutes and shooting buns, he still thinks he deserves a starting role, right? So it's a world where a lot of rookies are going to end up hitting a wall. It takes a special rookie to not hit a wall. And I would like to think, right? In my head, it only makes sense that you don't burn Ace super early in the season because you think he's not physically equipped just yet, whether it be from a conditioning standpoint, whether it be from a strength standpoint, or the more likely case, you just don't want teams to be adjusted to him coming into his sophomore year. They're going to have tape regardless, right? But at some point, you're going to have to uncork the bottle, right? You can't just keep shaking the champagne, right? At some point, you got to pop the lid off and it's going to start flying out. Now, it comes down to how early in the season you want to do it. I think that he, more than anybody, well, scratch that, Cooper Flag's in a worse situation. I think that he will end up panning out, but they're just going to take the longer road with him. Oh, yeah, you said the same thing as me. Let me see here. Where did I miss? Unfortunately, with the argument that you'll see with middies more than anything is that they're an inefficient shot, right? A person who hits 3 mid-range shots probably took 6 mid-range shots to hit, right? Going by efficiency marks, right? Either you were either 3 of 6 from mid range or 3 of 7 from mid range, right? And that's what we call a good mid range shooter usually. From 3 point range though, you only need to hit two, so you can go 2 of 3, you can go 2 of 4, you can go 2 of 5, you can go 2 of 6. But it's the return is obviously higher on 3 pointers than it is on mid range shots. And because of the difference in disparity for how inefficient you can be from three and still be considered a comp score, that's why the middies aren't really efficient. And honestly, that's part of the reason why what's his name? Melo in Oklahoma City didn't really work out that well because they said, "Hey, you're going to be one of those guys that we really lean on really heavily." And then he went there and they said, "Hey, Melo, spot up for us." That's not Melo. That's not Carmelo Anthony. When you think New York Knicks Carmelo Anthony, when you think Denver Nuggets Carmelo Anthony, neither of those guys are spot up 3 point shooters. Now, can they get hot from three? Yeah. But that's a bump shoulder fade kind of guy. He's a hezzy pull, midi pull kind of guy. But when he went to the Thunder, or when he went to yeah, it was a Thunder. When he went to the Thunder, they were like, "Hey, you're a great shooter, man, but we don't need you shooting that shot anymore. Like, actually, like, cut it out." And it sucks because I wish the league would have a little bit more parity. I understand analytics are important. I understand that they say certain things should happen, but across the entire scope of a game, anything can happen, right? I understand that if you shoot more threes, in theory, you have a larger sample size of opportunities to close that game out in crazy fashion. But I'll never hate a guy from shooting middies. And I think it kind of sucks that we've reached a point in NBA history where mid range is going to be pretty removed, right? To the point where some teams set a limit, like 4 mid range shot attempts per game, which is crazy. There's 80 shots in a game, and you're taking single digit middies. Think about that. That's ridiculous, right? They say within 8 feet of the rim or outside the arc. Maybe between 4 and 8 mid range shot attempts. There was how many in this game, for example? There was how many shot attempts? There was 80 shot attempts, right? 84. In our game, there was also like 80, yeah, 88, 88. So they're saying less than like 9% of overall shot attempts are allowed to be from mid range. Then you have guys that Ace Bailey who aren't necessarily known to be dead eyes from 3 point range, but they know how to shoot the lights out from mid range. And it's like, hey, you did that in college. You can't do that anymore. And it's really stifling to put somebody like that in that box because that's his bread and butter, right? He might have a game where he might have had a couple of games where he hit 3 or 4 threes, but for the most part, he was frying people in mid range. Like you didn't want to see him there. Because the moment he's frying you from mid range and you jump on a pump fake, he's going to the rim and he's booming on somebody. But it's just not the same in the NBA. And then also the difficulty scoring at the rim is a little bit higher, obviously. Um, but it's analytics are going to be the bane of his existence really early on. Also, oh yeah, logic, yeah, basically on the same page. Here's the thing: Ace will be good from mid range, but ultimately seen as a worst shot selection on the floor. I trust him to do that. He probably needs to show attacking and driving threes. Yeah, his bags in college dropped a guy's shoes playing mid range and tall on shoe range. That's just how it is. The comparison right now is Durant off the pick. Yeah. Yeah, I see where we're at. I think he doesn't need to improve their pick. We got one down. Go ahead and give it to him. Let him cook. All-Star break will be shooting much more, but just to make some matter, early media clowns him. Everybody clowns him. Every other rookie getting more opportunity than Ace right now. I think Ace needs a player like Isaiah to feed him more and make him like Ingles did Clarkson. That's a good argument. Most of the time he's on the floor with Lowry and Keontae. Pelicans he's in difficulty. Proven scorer who Ace needs to pass as first option. Sometimes a black hole like Clarkson. True. Also, the Jazz, everyone's selfish. I don't know why Ace never looked at to pass to. Sits corners, try people get assists, mainly pass. Simple over like Lowry. That's why Isaiah would be key to Ace. That's a good argument. future ain't looking good. I see starting a young court ace, maybe Lowry is. That's it. Collier playing with ace. I agree. Jazz won't get a top 3 pick next draft. So RIP. The big 3 next year will not get. It could be Walter Collier. They seems to be around more often. Literally see. Oh, I just missed it. I watched feed ace, let him shine with Lowry. I see that mid range is low percentage shot for most people, but Ingram, DeRozan, Derek White, DeJounte Murray, they shoot him great. I feel like Ace could be right there with them. To me, Ace should be second option right behind Lowry. His potential is crazy. Allow him to reach it. Wait till Ace gets big and we have him the ball more because he's literally just sitting corner like Daddy Green, like Danny Green. If Ace was on any other team, he'd get 30 plus minutes a game, 10 plus shots. Star, Ace, Lowry, Taylor, Kessler, same reason. Same reason for Bryce and Flip losing minutes. Now Svi has impressed me, but he shouldn't be in any rotation. Dude, Ace, Jazz with Ace, Thunder, Melo. So far, I may be overreacting. I think the next few games keeps this way. Ace starts over Svi. I'd rather Ace midi than anyone else. Floater. Let's see. Wemby was on a minutes restriction though his rookie year. I think overall with Ace, there's not too much to be worried about. In the next 5 games, I think there will not be much of a disparity defensively between him and Svi. And for that reason, unless Svi in his 4 3-pointers a night literally goes 3 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, 3 of 4, 2 of 4, we could, in theory, potentially, if it is really just a defense thing, right? If it is a he's not hitting his threes thing, see a switch between Ace and Svi. Or at the very least, a few more minutes, right? If you don't want to start Ace, cool. If you don't want to start him just yet, cool. But I don't think he's a 19-minute guy. You got to remember, right through chat, I wanted to give this counterpoint to Ace not starting. I wouldn't be surprised if Hardy's keeping Ace on the bench so he can observe the game. Also a good point. A lot of rookies that missed their first year say being able to observe the game and get used to the NBA helped them more than anything else. That's a good point. I think the most glaring person that really succeeded in that situation was Chet Holmgren. Because to me, Chet should not be this good. Or he shouldn't have been, even in his actual rookie year, he shouldn't have been that good. And I would argue that the only reason he was because he had the opportunity to be in an NBA training facility, watch actual NBA players hoop, and just be around in that existence. Now, the minutes definitely matter, but I think I'm not super. I'll put it this way: I'm not super concerned with this, and a lot of the things that we're going to be frustrated with, regarding with what Coach Hardy decides to do with rotations, isn't going to be a Coach Hardy decision to make, if that makes sense. It kind of reminds me of what's his name, Dwayne Casey. When he was with who was he with? He was with the Raptors when he won Coach of the Year, and then got fired that offseason. Because he didn't do what the front office wanted him to do. And a lot of times it just comes down to, you can look great as a coach, but if the front office if you don't listen to your front office, your rope is very short. And right now, no matter what Will Hardy does, we're supposed to lose games, but somehow look like we're still a decent team because we still want fans to buy tickets to come to the games, which is asking somebody to be perfectly mid is crazy to ask. But at the same time, if he doesn't do it, he's gone, or somebody on this roster is gone. And there's not really anybody crazy on here that I don't want to have. I mean, you guys know my thoughts on Nurkic. You know my thoughts on Svi. Kevin Love is just a good veteran presence, so I guess it's meh. But I think there's a world where, because we're only 6 games in? 6 games in? 6 games in? I didn't say. I think we're 6 games. I think this is our 6th game. I think we're 2 and 4 now, right? We're in the frustration stage Um, but I don't worry about it too heavily. There's something that clearly is going on behind the scenes with Ace Bailey, but I don't think it's just a Will Hardy choice. I think it's a Danny Ainge and what's his son's name? Eric? Is it Eric? Because Danny moved up to president of basketball operations or whatever, and then we have his son as our GM. Go figure. Crazy how that crazy how the family pedigree works. Not going to say he can't be a good basketball mind because he was, working with the Celtics, but maybe not the time for the nepotism that I'm hoping for, because I don't like tanking. So when you come in and you say, "Hey guys, we're going to choose to be butt now," and then you bring your son in and you're going to say, "Hey, make sure we're butt enough to keep our pick," and then make some decisions. It really doesn't go over with guys that just like good basketball, like me, you know. But meh, meh. Let's see. Thing with Durant. Self-praise the coaching staff of Utah for Ace's growth. Wait a year, we can raise concerns. Yeah, Ace going head-to-head against small forwards will help more than watching other Jazz play, especially the Jazz. We don't lead by a good example. If you had Katie on our team, and like I said, watch the master. Biggest difference between NBA and college is the speed. That is a very good point. That is definitely a very good point. Just being able to see how the guys play in practice is huge for rookies, but that's the thing. Is let him learn the playbook against games without blindly facing them early in his career for 30-plus minutes right away. Okay. Also, think that happened 30-plus games in his rookie season. I'll say I think a lot of the guys are trying, but a lot of it comes down to our minute spread, right? Svi trying. This is Svi trying. That 1 of 4 from 3, right? A couple defensive rebounds, a couple assists, a block, no turnovers, right? That's not a terrible game by Svi. If he hit 3 out of 4 threes, we would say that was a good game by Svi. There we would say that's a great game because he played his role, quote unquote. Nurkic, this is a bad game by Nurkic, right? I don't like him. If you want to tank games, yeah, start Yusuf Nurkic all day, every day, right? There's no way healthy Walker Kessler should be on the bench playing behind this guy. You can't convince me. If you want a tank commander, yeah, Nurk is definitely the guy for that. But, and there's a reason he only played 22 minutes. He gave you 22 minutes of mediocre to buns, right? He had the worst box score plus minus in just 20. He had a worse box score plus minus than he had minutes played, right? And that's who you leaned on super heavily. You can make the argument that even though Kevin Love only played 14 and a half minutes and was 0-2 from the field and three-point range, he played a better game than him, right? You could make that argument. Now, would it have the strongest, thing to stand on? Maybe not. But you can always push for that sort of thing. Taylor Hendricks, I would say 25 minutes of action. This is what we need from Taylor Hendricks every night. It's going to go under the radar and nobody's going to care about it because we lost by 23. So nobody's going to remember this. But I'm going to remember this because this is the exact game that I need from Taylor Hendricks. When I sit there and I say, when we want to win games, this is who Taylor Hendricks has to be every night. I confidently believe that. 5 of 8 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, hit both of his free throws. Didn't miss not 1 of 2, 2 of 2. 7 rebounds total. Had an assist. I would like him to have a steal, mix in a block and a steal, right? But no turnovers, 14 points. This is a perfect role player game for Taylor Hendricks. If you could give me this Taylor Hendricks 82 games and say, hey, all you have to do is find out who else you want to start on the court with them. I love that. That's the Taylor Hendricks that you need on the court alongside Larry Markkinen, right? Because you'll notice Larry, despite playing 33 minutes, was a box score minus 7. Dang. Let me slow down my speech. It was a negative 19 box score plus minus. Taylor Hendricks, who shared the floor with him most of the night in just 25 minutes of action, 7 less minutes, give or take 8, we'll call it 8. Only a negative 7 box score plus minus, right? Now, there were some glaring issues with everybody on the floor together. Nurkic was one of them. Taylor Hendricks was not the issue. But this is the type of game where, I really would love to have him. And Honestly, if we're gonna be honest, if we're planning on winning games and this is a regular season game, like this isn't a, you know, overtime game like we played before, Lowry should not be taking 28 shots. Maybe 23, right? And the only reason I can imagine we're gonna have him continue to take 25 to 30 shots a night is because we want to be able to say he strained his back. He messed up his wrist. He was shooting the ball so much, he got carpal tunnel. He got something going on. So we got our team doctors checking him out. You know what I'm saying? That's what I imagine is gonna end up happening. That's the only thing that makes sense for me right here. Because in my perfect world, Lowry is your most efficient player. You traded away Colin Sexton, so now Lowry is your most efficient player by a landslide, right? Lowry takes 15 shot attempts. Taylor gets 10. Forget Nurkic. Svi gets 5. Keontae, you can keep Keontae at 18 for all I care, right? Ace gets 12. Bryce gets like 7, 8 at least. Walter Clayton gets 5 or 6. And Kyle Filipowski also in that 5 to, or we'll say Walter Clayton Jr. and Kyle Filipowski, 5 to 8 shot attempts a night, right? In my head, that's how the math works out. And then when Isaiah Collier comes back, you kind of shift things around. But there's no reason we should have Larry Markkinen shooting 28 shot attempts. We know we're but. You don't have to prove to us that Lowry's the only guy that can consistently get a bucket, right? This is a great game for Taylor Hendricks. But I don't want Taylor Hendricks shooting 15 shots a night because that's not his game. That's not his bag. Now, if you leave him butt naked open, right, 8 times from 3, yeah, we're going to shoot those 15, right? But if he ends up shooting 5 of 15, I'm not going to be mad because in my head, I don't think Taylor Hendricks should be shooting 15 or 16 shot attempts in a night unless something goes crazy weird defensively with the other team. But like I said, on the other side of the coin, Larry Markkinen should not be shooting 28 times. That's way too many. Like 10 3-pointers, you can make that argument, right? If he's shooting 19 to 23 shots a night, and 10 of them are threes, he can hit 3, so you can make that argument. But 28 is crazy. In a regular season game, and he only played 32 minutes, mind you. He took a shot every minute. He took a shot almost every single minute. Put that into context. If you count the 2 free throws that he took too, that's 30 shots for 33 minutes. Right? So he literally took a shot for every minute he was on the floor. And people will make the argument, well, he's their best player. People that don't watch the Jazz will say he's their best player. There's nobody else that can score. There are the people that can score. I watched Bryce Sensabaugh score, right? 8 minutes though. We only found, he was 5 or 6 from the free throw, so he was cooking out there. But 8 minutes, his true shooting is like 94% on this, by the way. This is like that Wemby game where he had 8 shot attempts. He was like 7 of 8 from the field, and then he was like 14 of 15 from the free throw line and had like 24 points or something like that, right? Really, this is a good night. But you only give him 8.5 minutes. Meanwhile, we had Lowry breaking his wrist, literally. And to me, I confidently believe, like after that stretch of basketball where we accidentally won games and we had Fontecchio and those boys, I realized Will Hardy at that moment, no matter what happened the rest of the season, especially after the trade, I said, Will Hardy's a good coach to me. I can't say he's a great coach, but he's a competent coach to me. But we have to actually say, hey, Will Hardy, this is your time. Show us you can win basketball games. This is the roster composition. Show us you can win games. And if we go a full season and Will Hardy strings together the worst stats possible, if he by choice as a head coach, when given the free reins from the front office, and he rolls this out, and this is a constant. Lowry 30 shot attempts, Keontae 15 to 18 shot attempts. Let's say Walker Kessler only gets 6 shot attempts. And then we have Bryce Sensabaugh playing 8 minutes. You can't convince me that if we wanted to win a game, Bryce would only play 8 minutes. We were down 23 in the fourth quarter. No, we weren't even. We were down 17 entering the fourth quarter, I believe, because we got outscored by 5 in the fourth. We were down 17 starting the fourth quarter. And Bryce still only managed 8 minutes of action. He played less minutes than Cody Williams. No, they can miss me with that. This isn't a Will Hardy decision. This is somebody else's decision. This reminds me of that one Jeff Teague story where he's like he went was it his second stint in Atlanta when Evan Turner was there, and he was like, hey, they're gonna have a talk with you. They're gonna give you 19. They're probably gonna give you like 15 or 19 minutes of action, no more, no less. And he said, what are you talking about? And then the GM called him into the office. He said, hey, how's it going, man? So we got 19 minutes for you. He thought Evan Turner was lying. That's how the front offices get down. They're about a dollar bill and that's it. That's why I like guys like Steve Ballmer, even though he let his GM sit there and trade for Paul George and then let Paul George walk. Crazy work, by the way. But team owners and team like front office staff that actually love winning basketball games regardless, just love good basketball, they will always have my heart. You can't convince me that Danny Ainge loves basketball, right? You can tell me how great he was when he played basketball. I don't care. I don't believe Danny Ainge loves basketball. I don't think he loves it the way that we love basketball. Rather, let me say that, right? He might love basketball. He might love good hoops, but he also might love a dollar bill more than he loves basketball sometimes. I can't do that. No, I'm sorry. Sorry, I definitely went on a little tangent right there. Where are we? Larry might be trying too much. Yeah. Larry knows he's the best in the squad, even then I don't think he should be taking 30 shots tonight. Bingo. There we go. Yeah. Rolled out a lineup for 30 games basically in spite his rookie season. Svi is hood in this case. So yeah, it might be like 30 games, but Ace will likely take that spot yeah. Kessler being gone sucks because Walker Kessler has definitely been doing his job for sure. Like Taylor in the starting lineup. Need more passing though. As solid as Key's been so far, we can't rely on him as the only playmaker. Yeah, he's definitely taking strides, but he's just not quite there just yet. Jazz are just Larry marketing and some dudes. No, that's funny. Collier comes back, hits 5 straight threes, shuts the door on the starting point guard job would be a dream country. Yeah, if Isaiah Collier knows how to shoot the basketball, it's over. Keontae George will definitely have cemented minutes, but he can't pass like Collier can. He can pass. He can definitely pass, but he can't pass like Collier can. Trust. I do think that if we moved Asa starting lineup and let him take 15 shots, it would help Larry be more efficient. True. ISO Collier with a 3-ball action, we wouldn't. Shit like lie. Let's see. Speaking of Bryce, what happened to him? He's been great the first 2 games, and then he's taken 12 shots and 4 something. Yeah. They just cut his minutes. There's no actual like there's no official reason for his minutes getting cut down. They're just doing his thing. Yeah. I want to say game against Phoenix, he still played 15 minutes and only took 4 or 5 shots. It's been down from there. Yeah. I'll be happy if Collier could shoot even like Stockton or consistent around 40%, even if a few times a game. I can say NBA Cup. Bryce played 5 minutes. Collier's game kind of reminds me of Ricky Rubio. Good play. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant playmaker, but broken jumper. I don't see him ever being a good shooter. I want him to be a good shooter, but I'm scared. I need him to get a floater though. If he can't even get a floater, it's gonna be bad for him. Yeah, he did break that wrist in college. Not gonna lie, I think Coach has a problem with he doesn't. The thing is, if the issue with the position that Coach Hardy's been put in when it comes to Ace Bailey, the league says people buy Ace Bailey jerseys. Utah says we love Ace Bailey. We want more Bailey. If he says if he only compliments him but says he's just not ready yet to start, that's not a good enough excuse. So it has to sound like there's something like there's an actual issue going on there, or else he's not going to have a justified reason to not play the top 5 pick. That's the curious angle that he has to take, unfortunately. I confidently believe, like, compared to if if he said this, like, if he was talking the way he talks about Ace nowadays, before we drafted him, then yeah, I'd say, nah, he really doesn't like that guy. Because we all didn't like that guy at that time, and it made sense. But I don't buy a lot of his Ace Bailey statements. I don't think they're true to heart. I think he might have to nitpick and kind of extrapolate things a little and blow things a little out of proportions just to make sure everybody across the league, says, "Oh yeah, Ace just needs to get a little bit better. He just needs some more reps." Yeah, everybody can pretend like they know what's going on when they don't. Yeah, yeah. His wrist injury was really really rough. Um, he missed a significant amount of games. He did end up coming back later on in the year, but he just wasn't who he was supposed to be. And that's why he ended up eventually falling just as far as he did. Uh, at one point, like coming into college, Collier was supposed to be a top 5 pick. Coming into college, he was supposed to be a top 5 pick. I want to say I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this, but I think at one point his senior year he was ranked as the number 1 senior, which would have led most people to say he's probably a lock for a top 3 pick in the draft, if not the number 1 guy for his respective class. Um, But yeah, that injury took a lot out of him. That, and then combined with the fact that even predating the injury, he didn't like pop off super crazy. That it kind of did rough things for him. Um, yeah, Flip was supposed to be a lottery pick, bar none. That I'll never forget. I'll never forget. Like that is the craziest way to fall. Your girlfriend is the reason you fell in the draft. She didn't hurt you. She didn't injure you. She was just being her. And that's what caused you to drop. Like, what? That's so stupid to me. But I mean, he's proven everybody wrong and showing that he can, he's worthy of where he was picked. So I'm pretty happy with it. Uh, Doesn't matter if you're having a good game. If you're not playing defense, you won't play. It's a direct shot at Ace. The game you went 3 or 5 and I'll play 12 minutes. Yep, for sure. Collier was projected to be top 5 back in high school. I thought he would drop. Yeah, he was number. Okay, yeah. It kind of fell both ways. Um, oh, I mean, yeah. His girlfriend did blow it up, or his family did blow it up, but it was just funny to see how it happened. Like it was the most random thing ever. Like I never expected that to be a storyline. Um, Basically, the Jazz have a lot of things to work on, a lot of real issues, and it's kind of hard for me to grade them sometimes because like a game like this, you look at Taylor Hendricks' stat line and we look at Taylor Hendricks' highlights from the game and we say, okay, this is feasibly who Taylor Hendricks should be 5, 10, 15 years into his career, right? When he retires, this is the type of stat line a good Ace Bailey night is, right? Maybe he has 20 points, right? Maybe he even gives you 25, right? But we don't think Taylor Hendricks is going to give us, consistent 30-point bombs, driving to the rim, frying people, like step back threes, pull up. Like nobody expects that. But this is the type of this is realistically when the Jazz are trying to win games. This is the type of Taylor Hendricks stat line you need to see, right? This is too much. This is a whole lot from Larry Market. This is not what you want to see because he's overcompensating. This reminds me of the game 1 of the finals uh, of LeBron's last finals when he was in Cleveland that last year when J.R. Smith sat there and thought the game was tied or whatever, and then dribbled the ball back after a rebound miss, right? In that game, LeBron had 51, 2 guys had 9, and 2 guys had like 7 and 6. There was no other double-digit score in the starting lineup, which is crazy. And when I see Lowry shoot 28 shot attempts, that's the way it feels in my head. Like that's the mental picture I get. Funny because of the state where they did nothing, and 17 was age of consent, and before he was even a lock for the NBA when they dated is still weird. But just to drop that far knockers, Yeah. I was like, does it really matter that much? If the age of consent is one particular thing, and everybody's parents are letting everybody's daughters dress any kind of way, wear any kind of makeup, we're clearly not getting like checks at clubs that are supposed to be 18 and up in case of like Josh Giddey. And we're blaming these guys that like they had no way of knowing. I mean, in the case of what's his name? In the case of Giddy, he didn't know, and that's the only reason he's still in the league. That's the only reason he's still in the league. Shout out to him though, because he has the Bulls at 5-0. Dare I say, he has taken on the Lonzo role in the Billy Donovan system, and I'm happy for him. Shout out Lonzo though. If you listen right now. If you said Isaiah Collier and Keontae George trade for Lonzo Ball, but Lonzo can only play 29 minutes a night, his body won't let him play anymore. I would get on my knees and pray to God, like I'm what's his name, the reporter friend from that one Peter Parker movie when the Venom symbiote first popped out. I'm talking like OG Peter Parker, like not Andrew Garfield, not Tom Holland. I'm talking about my goat, like that one where he goes into the church and he's like, God, please kill my. I was like that's how I would pray, because Lonzo would be perfect. Lonzo would be perfect. Taylor Hendricks would always get his shot attempts. Larry would always get his shot attempts. A Walker Kessler, Lonzo Ball pick and roll? Freaky. Alonzo Ball, Ace Bailey, anything? Freaky. Lonzo Ball, Bryce Sensabaugh? Freaky. Dare I say, slide Lonzo Ball to the 2, let Walter Clayton run the 1, or defensively, it's going to be fine because it's Lonzo Ball. He likes defense. I could talk about Lonzo Ball all day. No, I do want Lonzo. I do want Lonzo. LaMelo doesn't play defense enough for me. He's getting better. This year's LaMelo was looking kind of freaky. I've always been a Lonzo fan because, like, I'll never forget when he first came to the league and his dad, shout out to Father Ball, despite having lost his leg and everything like that, he's always been, who left? Knights, I'll see microwave. When Lonzo first came to the league and his dad was talking him up saying he was better than Steph Curry, Lonzo never fed into it. He just went out there and hooped, right? He was having bad shooting nights, getting slandered every day by the media. But his confidence, he never, like, how do I put this? The way Ben Simmons' confidence fell through the floor. If he had Lonzo Ball's brain in his body, Ben Simmons would be one of the greatest basketball players in the game right now. He would be top 10 consensus without question. If you put Lonzo Ball's fortitude and confidence and willingness to play through adversity and just dog it out, Ben Simmons would be a top 10 player. For sure. For sure. With his bag, for sure. But he didn't. And that's why Lonzo's still a serviceable player. When I finally got to see him, hoop again, at the very end there in Chicago when he got the surgery for his knees and everything, I was extremely happy because it was like, he's never going to be a Steph Curry. He's never going to be a Kyrie Irving. He's always going to be a glue guy. At his peak, he's a maybe 18, maybe 20 points. Maybe 20 points in a night and then 13 assists, right? But more realistically, like 17 points, 13, 14 assists, right? That's a great Lonzo Ball game. But that's the best you're going to get out of him. To me, if I have Lauri Markkanen and Ace Bailey ends up being who Ace Bailey can be, I don't necessarily want Keontae George being my start, my point guard. I want a Lonzo Ball kind of archetype because he'll shoot threes. He might go to the rim off a cut, but usually he's just diming the ball up. Every chance he gets, dime. It's going to be raining coins. And that's the type of person that I want alongside Ace Bailey to begin with. Him, Bryce, because he fits alongside Ace Bailey, but also Bryce Sensabaugh. Dare I say, if you have Ace Bailey, Keontae George, and Bryce Sensabaugh on the floor at the same time, you can't. Because all three of those guys are shooters, and only one of them is a realistic learning/heavyish passer, right? But if you have Lonzo Ball, Ace Bailey, and Bryce Sensabaugh, Lonzo's only shooting if he feels like Ace Bailey and Bryce Sensabaugh will not have a better shot attempt than him, which means he's going to defer and pick whoever will be the best option on every single possession to get a bucket. And that's why I would love. Giddy gets gets so much hate. It makes me mad. Yeah, Giddy's not a bad player, dude. He doesn't necessarily have a 3-point ball, but he's definitely it was bad, especially in the beginning. That was terrible. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, he's a a file. Get him out of the league. Why is he still on a roster? Yo, Billy Donovan, what are you doing? Chicago Bulls, y'all are crazy. Y'all are disgracing MJ's legacy. Like, what are we talking about? Are we serious, my dude? Are we serious? And the thing that cemented in my head that he was a good guy was when I found out that he told the Oklahoma City Thunder front office before the news ever sniffed the story. By the time it went public, his team, his front office, everybody that mattered knew months in advance. That's why I said, you know what? There's no way he's guilty, because they knew and they kept him around, which means when he says, "Hey, I didn't know she snuck into this place where it was supposed to be an age cutoff, and I found out way after the fact," those are verified facts, because if they weren't, oh, he would have been gone. People would have said, "Why did Josh Giddey get cut? Why did Josh Giddey just get traded? He's such a promising guy." And then the story would have broke. And they would have said, "Oh my gosh, they were so ahead of it. Oh my gosh, they're such a great front office." Oh, that's how they would have went. But they were such a good, team, and they've constructed their roster so well that everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, forget Josh Giddey. How do these guys have so many draft picks?" And it's like, it's just really nice, I guess. Still never improved at 3. Hey, that rookie of the year was different, man. Yeah, Donovan Mitchell proved to just some guys, and it's really rough because Ben Simmons was the first guy that I watched play basketball, and it was like he actually he's not him. Like, he has all the tools to be him, but he will never be him because it's just not up here. And I would argue Joel Embiid isn't him either. I think Joel Embiid's like, in the next 2 years, it's over. Put mildly. Giddey will drop his career high like he did a game ago, and the comps are just Diddy or something. Yeah, the Giddler. When Ben Simmons run rookie of the year, I'll about burn my house down. And when every single time Giddey touched the ball last season, he got booed. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. He was not safe from any team's bench, from any team's fans. He wasn't safe from his own team's fans, dare I say. It was bad. It's funny, as Giddey did that universally hated something. It was disapproved basically while the NFL UFC was. It's proven it nearly killed people racing get a 6-game suspension. No, that's real. That's definitely real. The NFL is an entirely different beast, dude. I'll never forget when I found out Ray Rice actually beat his kids. Like, I was like, oh, he spanked them with a belt. That's what parents do. I'd rather he spanks his kids with a belt and they act right than he just sits there and says, "Hey, Gerard, hey Gerald, don't do that. Yo, Jalen, don't do that. Stop. Don't hit your mother. You shouldn't break toys." No, beat that bad child behind. But when I found out I said, I was like, "There's no way." I was like, "Not Ray Rice." Not Ray, or Adrian Peterson too. Oh my goodness, that threw me for a loop. I was like, not only was he beating up NFL defenses, he was beating up his family. It was crazy. Yo, Karl Malone, like, every time I hear about it, it's crazy. Even like when Pat Bev's with his expression when it got told to him, it is the funniest thing ever. Like, people will say he was trolling, but I think that in the back of my mind, I want to believe that is a completely real and honest reaction. Like, he had no idea, and this is the first time somebody's like, "Bro, he got a 13-year-old pregnant," and he's like, 13? like what? Like, that doesn't even sound like it's feasible. And then they allowed this guy. They say, "Yeah, this guy's a consensus great player." And to his argument, he was a great NBA player. Unfortunately, he was. But it's hard to separate the art from the artist a lot of time. And Karl Malone was one of those guys where his art was just not it. Respectfully, that's just not the art we need to see, right? You make terrific art, but as an artist, as like a individual person, you gotta go. Like I'll watch your highlight. I like honestly, I don't even watch his highlights no more. But like early on, if you're a forward and you watch his game highlights, it's good tape. But don't grow up saying, "Hey, I want to be like Karl Malone." If you don't know lore, that's gonna be a crazy day. Because somebody gonna sit there and somebody going, you say you want to be like who? And it's over. It's over. Yeah. Yeah. Strictly on the court antics. That's what we're here for. Mhm. Yeah, the NBA with this whole gambling thing is going crazy. I love to gamble, don't get it twisted. But there's no reason Terry Rozier should be at the front of any gambling thing. The 15th man off the bench, fair, right? Because that guy's probably making, let me see, probably like 1 maybe 2 million, right? We're talking about like the Elijah Harklesses of the world. If Elijah Harkless put in a told somebody to put in a parlay on him and he played, or Cody Williams or Slow Mo or Nurkic. If Nurkic put in a parlay on himself, that would make sense. That would make sense to me. But if you sat there and said Larry Markkinen is at the front of a gambling problem, I say, I was like, what are you talking about? This man has over $100 million in earnings in his NBA career thus far. What are we talking about right now? What do you mean he's in gambling issue? He has gambling issues. What? For doing all that gambling for an extra game check? Brother, get a brand deal. Get a brand deal. Please. He said Karl Malone cursed the Utah Jazz. Hey, it's not a. I'll never forget. What's his name? Shout out James Hansen. I don't agree with a lot of his takes though, right? But shout out James Hansen. He said, "Who should the Jazz get with their number 1 pick next year?" I said, "Number 1, really? We were just the worst team by a mile last season, and we didn't get the number 1 pick. You think we're going to get number 1 this year? What makes this year so special? Lock in, lock in. Let's be honest, guys. Let's be real. We're not getting Cam Boozer." Would I like to have Cam Boozer? Of course. And if the league decides, we owe them a favor, this is an entertainment league. Let's add some parity to it. Then fantastic. But I'm not sitting here expecting Cam Boozer. I'm not expecting Devonsa. I would love to have Devonsa, but I got to see it first. Yes, we'll never get the first pick in the draft. Never draft the next generational player. Never make the Western Conference Finals. We might sniff a Western Conference Finals. It's going to take a lot though. Unfortunately though, unless Wemby is injured, we will never win a finals. Wemby's going to make sure we don't, unfortunately. It sucks, but I've resigned myself to that fact. Jazz will be just known for Karl Malone, MJ beating us and being tired dog shit. They're gonna say, wasn't that where Rudy Gobert was from? That's our legacy now. Not in our lifetime. Nah, it's gonna be at least another 20 years, dude. This dude Wemby is ridiculous. Wemby is the type of guy to sit there and dominate the league for 15 years, win 6 rings, and say, hey, it's been real, but I think I've had enough of this basketball stuff. Not because of injury, just because, he's been atop the league so long and he's never really faced real hard dog type issues. He was just like, you know what? I think I'll switch to coaching. I think I'll just, I don't even know what Wemby likes doing outside of basketball. I think he likes playing chess. I'd love to play him in chess. But just go travel the world and do stuff. Like he can't hide. He's 7'6", but he's just the type of guy that will be like, basketball's been fun, guys, but deuces. And he just gets out of there. curses us being bad for 5 years, then consistently good, but not good enough to win it all. Yeah, yeah, that sounds just about right to me. That does not look right at all. 4 points per game. What are we talking about right now? Is that serious? Oh, I guess it is. Okay, never mind. Scratch. Ignore me. Oh, it didn't factor in today's game. That's what it is. Okay. Crazy how close their stats are. 21, 3, and 9. How many turnovers a game are you averaging, brother? Before this one, it was 4. It's still 4 after this one. Okay. Assist dropped a little bit, though. But yeah, no superstar will ever join. Nah, there's no way. I think it would literally take somebody who grew up watching Utah to do it, and I don't think there's anybody that's like that. I would have to get stupid good at basketball. I'm not bad at basketball, but I'm definitely not an NBA player. I'll tell you that. I'd have to like really just make it happen. AJ Bonsa, literally. If we don't get him, we might be chopped. We might be cooked. But yeah, uh, I'll be more on the ball this year, dude. When I got my tire, it literally looked like an Allen wrench. I went over train tracks and it literally looked like the size of your pinky, but like as long as your entire hand, just lodged into the tire when I pulled over. I'm like, dude, that's ridiculous. Missed out on the stream. I was looking forward to talking about that game too. All right, bro. I'll talk to you, Tyson. He said Lowry trying to perform magic to break it. But if it's anything like the NFL, someone sold the soul to the devil. Now we're forever stuck in bad. We get great college players coming out of our university. No, that is so real. That is so real. Let me see here. Utah Jazz. When's our next game? Oh, today. Okay. All right. Wasn't expecting that. All right. So today, Monday, Wednesday. Where are we? Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay. All right. All right. So we'll hopefully I'll be more prompt this time around. I'll probably I'll hope to stream like right after the game ends. As long as that happens, we'll be good. But we'll see. We'll see if I run into any difficulties. Commissioner paying Will Hardy not to play Ace. What's his name? Uh, our front office, Mr. Ainge said, "Yeah, Will, if you play Ace more than 20 minutes, so help me God, you won't live to see tomorrow." He said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I only have about 10 more tomorrows left in my system. That's why I brought my son over here." Yeah. Adam Silver said, wait till Cooper Flag catches his stride, then you can let Ace get off. Then you can let Ace get off, but only after then. But yeah, gotta be with we'll get you the number one pick. Just trade Lowry mid-season. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, if they did that, that would piss me off. That will piss me off so bad. Trading Lowry just to get the first pick, I might fry myself. I thought we traded Taylor Hendricks last year for something good. Clearly that didn't happen though. Clearly, right? I thought snapping his leg in half was enough to get us something positive, and didn't happen. But yeah, in any news or in any what's the phrase I'm looking for? In any event, yeah, we'll be back at it in literally less than 24 hours. Um, it's been fun, as I always say. Good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in. Good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and without any further ado, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. I forgot my whole thing. You said, how dumb is it to worry more about the draft pick than winning? Everyone thinking that this year we get. There's no way we get the number one. Dude, night guy, dude. I ain't seen you in a minute, brother. Yeah, there's no way we get the. There's no way we get the number one pick. People say we do. I'm like, dude, I just watched this beat Buns like play unwatchable basketball last year, and they were like, dude, trust, we're gonna get the number one pick this year. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? We were so unbearably bad. I didn't watch certain games. Like it was a struggle to watch highlights for me, and I love hoops. I was struggling to watch highlights. I felt like AI talk about practice. We talk about highlights. It was bad. You know, it's we'll get there, I guess, somehow. I don't know how, but somehow. But yeah, I'll catch y'all tonight. I guess is the best way to word it. And yeah.